Welcome to GT School. In this tutorial, I will show you how to create a slick and elegant slideshow in Adobe After Effects. Whether you're showcasing portfolios, corporate project, travel stories, or professional presentation, this style will add a touch of sophistication to your project. We will start by setting up our composition, adding smooth transition and crafting effect to elevate your work. So grab your coffee, fire off After Effects, and let's dive into crafting your stunning slideshow step by step. So let's start our project by creating a new composition. Rename this main. Let's keep the width 3000 and the height 1688, frame rate 25 frames per second, and duration around something like 20. And now let's create another composition. Rename this placeholder, and just go to footage folder and drag and drop the first image into the composition. Press S on the keyboard to open scale properties, and let's make it 52. And now let's close the placeholder composition. Now let's create another composition. Rename this strips. So let's change the duration for this composition, something like 5 seconds. And now let's create here a new solid. Let's change the color to black. And the width something like 4108, the height 2311. Now let's add here fractal noise effect. Let's change the fractal type and also noise type, and let's go into transform setting, click on uniform scaling, and let's change the scale width something like 7485 and scale height something like 280, and let's change the complexity something like 1, evolution something like -12 255. Let's change the sub-influence to something like 41 and the subscaling to something like 905. Now go to 3 seconds forward and let's create a keyframe on offset turbulence, and let's change it something like 296 and 1620, and just go to the beginning and let's change it to something like 1233. Yes, that's the keyframes for now. And let's add here another effect, CC toner. Let's change the tones type from tritone to dutone. Let's change the highlight something like 5% of the brightness. Maybe I will make it 54%, or you can just write here 89 89 89. Yes, hit OK, and let's change the shadow to something like this. So let's make our solid 3D, and let's just press S on the keyboard to open scale properties. Now let's press R on the keyboard and let's change the Z rotation to 180. And I think we are done with our black solid. Now let's create a new adjustment layer. Let's add here CC lens effect, and let's change the lens size from 50 to 199. Now just go to project, select the strips composition, go to edit menu and just duplicate it. You can do this by pressing Ctrl D on the keyboard. Now just double click the strips to composition and press W to open all the properties and all the setting that we have changed inside the solid. let's find evolution, change this to 7 and 343, and for rotation let's change it from minus 12 degree, something like this. And just go to strip 1 and press W on the keyboard, go to rotation, let's make it minus 180. Yeah, and now close these two strips compositions. Let's create a new one and rename this lines. Inside lines, let's create a new solid. So for this black solid, I'm gonna change the height of this solid from 2311 to 2163. That's okay. Now go back to strip 1 and select both the black solid one and adjustment layer and press Ctrl C to copy them. Go to lines and Control within right over here. Now just make the adjustment into the top and hide it for now. Now select the black solid one and delete the CC toner from it and copy the fractal noise from here and go to black solid 2, paste it here. Now press U on the keyboard 2 times to preview all the setting and all the properties. At the really beginning, just go for off turbulence, delete the last frame and in the first frame to 2810 and this one to 1516. Now go to frame 3 and change this to something like 1300. Just hide this one also for now. And for evolution, I will go with something like 7332. And now just go for rotation. Just make this layer 3D and let's change the Z rotation to something like minus 180 and press S on the keyboard, unlink it, and now let's change the first scale to minus 100. Now let's add here another effect, luma key, and let's change the threshold in luma key to 250. Now press W on the keyboard. Now go for scale height something like 2. Now just delete the fractal noise from that one, delete it and go to this one, copy the fractal noise from here, Ctrl C and go there, Ctrl V it. So move the keyframes to the beginning of the composition and let's change the turbulent, the offset turbulence, let's just change it to 3210 and 1620. Now go to the last frame and change it to something like 905. Press W to open all the setting. For scale height, I will go to something like 5. For evolution, I will go with something like 16244. And for scale, I will go with plus 100. And unlink it, I will make this minus 100, the first one. And let's just add here luma key. And let's just change the threshold to something like 250. Let's just preview what we have created. So let's just turn on that lens effect also here. Now let's preview. So now the first strip is completed. Let's just close them all and let's create a new composition. Rename this pre-comp 01 So before continuing our video, let's just move them into a folder. Create a new folder, rename this O1 and close the main for now, and let's just go through folder 1 and let's just drag and drop the placeholder composition into my pre-comp. So once you added your placeholder into pre-comp composition, now let's make it 3D. Let's just add here motion tiles. And motion tile, let's just turn on the mirror edges and let's change the output height something like 120, and let's just create here a new adjustment layer once again. Control Shift Y, rename this lens L and C. So let's add here curves and let's just make this something like that, and just add here another one and one click here and just move this one kind of to the top, so something like that. Now let's just turn off curves, lens CC lens, and let's change the size to 199. Yeah, you can see the curves. Now let's create a new solid, make it kind of brightness something like 10, hit OK, and just let's title action on, select the rectangle tool and now select the solid. Now just from here Control Shift and just create something like that, a mask around it, and now press F on the keyboard to open mask feather and change it to something like 1000, and now press T on the keyboard to open opacity and let's change the opacity something like 50. Now create another adjustment layer, Control Shift Y, rename this hue and saturation HS and curve, so I will go with SH and C and hit OK. Now let's add here hue and saturation effect, and let's just make the master saturation something like -31. You can see it better now, and let's just add here, and let's add here curves, and let's just make it something like this, and let's press T on the keyboard to open the opacity properties and make it something like 50%. So now you can see what has exactly happened. Press the rectangle tool and select the ellipse, and now let's create another rectangle right over here something like this. Press M on the keyboard as it is. Now invert the mask, press F on the keyboard to open feather and make it 1000%. That's great. Now select type tool, select the font, and let's write here something like, let's change this to 50. Right here, page United States. Let's make its size something like 25 for now. Make it here and let's just turn off file and select the anchor point tool and make sure the snapping is turned on. Let's just make this anchor point right over here, and now I'm gonna go through text, make it something like, go to frame 3 and 10, and let's animate the text, add here position, and add here opacity. Let's make the opacity something like 0 for now. It must be something like -100. Let's make it 50 for now to see what is going to happen. Now go to range selector, go to advanced, and let's just change this to ramp up from character to words, and let's change the easy lock amount like 100%, and now go for offset, and let's make it something like -100. Got something like 6 and 10. Press Ctrl K. I'm sorry, I didn't know that I have made this comp 5 frames. Now let's make our composition a little bit something like, let's move them now in 6 and 10. Create, make the offset 100, press W and make the opacity 0. Now you can see what we have made, so let's preview. That's good. Now let's just Ctrl D to duplicate them. Just go to something like 3, move them into the top, and let's change this to something like 150, and let's change this to extra light, and let's write here something like this. Press Y on the keyboard to select the anchor point, and let's just move it from something to like this. Now let's create here a new camera, hit OK, and let's just make them 3D as well, and just speed up the camera for now. Let's create a new null object, Ctrl Shift Y to rename this CC camera controller, and let's parent the camera to this layer and make the null object 3D. Press P on the keyboard, go to frame something like frame 9, keyframe, and let's change this to 3503, and go to really beginning and let's make it 900. So now you can see that it comes really close, but the technique is we just need a few position settings to do here to solve the problem here. Just go to the last frame, select the position for placeholder, press P on the keyboard, and let's change this to something like and for scale, now just go 270 as we used the motion tile before, and now go for text, page United States, position something like 1405 923, and for that one I will go something like position, let's change its position something like 435 824 64, something like this. Now let's just play this animation. So one thing that I think we are missing is our title box. Let's create a composition, rename this title O1, and let's change the composition width to something like 800 and the composition height to something like 320. Now just go to our main composition, copy the page United States text, paste it right over here. Don't make it 3D and turn off 3D icon, and just go through align menu, make it into the center. Let's write here so now let's create a shape from rectangle, something like this. Go to rectangle path and rectangle size. Let's change the size to something like 480 and just close it for now. For scale and position, now press Y on the keyboard, move the anchor point to the side, align it into the center. Now go to the beginning, create a keyframe on scale. Rectangle position is going to be something like 0 here and 0 here. Align it into the center. Now press U on the keyboard, go to the beginning, just move the anchor point again to the side. So here scale is okay, just go to frame 1. Here let's change the scale to something like 0. In the position something like -350. Select it, keyframe assistant, ease them, select the graph editor and move it all the way to something like this. Let's see it now. Now just make it down, select the text, make the color black for the text, make it into the center. Now press S on the keyboard, make it something like this, and toggle switch the models, turn on the alpha matte inverted, so just invert it and close it for now. Now go to folder 1 and just drag and drop the titles into our main scene. Now press U on the keyboard, let's go to something like 250 and let's change our title start to there. Press P on the keyboard, make it go to there and let's make it 3D, and let's change its position to something like 4512 and 650 474, something like that. So now we are done with our composition. Let's see the preview. So I think we are done here. Our slideshow animation is okay. Now it's time to create the transition between two footage. So let's do this. Let's create a new composition. So let's keep the composition with 3000 and the height 1688 and duration around 20. Let's rename this to block 1 and let's hit OK. So in this composition I'm gonna import a few composition. So let's import this pre-comp right over here, and also strips 1 plus line 1, and let's just cut them all. Cut it here, select them. So let's add here a few effects. So let's turn on the mirror edges effect. Let's change the output to something like 250 and 250, and now let's just add here displacement map, and let's just change the displacement map to strips. Just turn off the lines and the strips for now. Now just turn on the map, select this one, and just change its alpha matte layer to strips, and change this to inverted mode. So now you can see how it comes. Let's play this. You can see. And now let's add here a few other effects inside strips. So let's invert this from black to like white and let's add here levels. Now let's just go to frame 2 and 24. Just go to effect and go through levels and just turn on histogram and click on it. Press U on the keyboard to see the keyframe. Let's just change the input white something like 132 and the gamma to something like 5 and the output white to something like 255. Now go to the first frame and let's change this to something like 255 0 and 132. Select them, keyframe assistant is ease, and just move them kind of something like this. So now just select the pre-comp, go to the frame 2 and 24, create a keyframe and let's make them 0 and 0. Go to the beginning and frame 0, let's make this 700. Now press U on the keyboard, keyframe assistant is ease them, just make it another 0. Select this and go to grab editor and move it something like this. So just turn on the lines, just go for opacity and go to something like here and let's just make the opacity 0 and go to around 1 and 12 and make the opacity again 100. Go to the really beginning and let's make it 0 again. And now let's just go again to the project and let's make the pre-comp once again here and let's just cut it something like 524. I'm sorry, I have to replace the pre-comp instead of placeholder, so I'm sorry for the mistake. So let's just add here placeholder, and again just another copy of the placeholder, duplicate it, and this time let's move it that way and cut it from the beginning, and let's add here strip 2. Go to pre-comp, select the motion tile and displacement, Control C, and go to that one, add it right over here. Now select the track matte layer to strip 2 and let's invert it, and go to strip 1 and copy invert and labels, Control C and Control V it right over here. Now press U on the keyboard, select the keyframes, keyframe assistant, reverse them, and for motion tile let's just go and select the strip number 2, press U on the keyboard, keyframe assistant, and reverse them. So let's preview this. So select all the keyframes, press U on the keyboard, and just go to something like frame 9 and bring them right over there. So now I think we are done with our post composition. So just go back to pre-comp, select the text, add here so let's go to effect and preset menu and right here glow, add it into the text. So let's change the glow threshold to 100, the glow radius something like 25, and the glow intensity 0.5, and Control C to copy it and paste it on all the text. Now you can see how it looks like. So change this to full quality, close it for now. Now just go add the block to the folder 1 and go through main composition, Control K, and now just Control D to duplicate this folder and rename this 02. And once you did this, let's rename this to block 2, so first of all open the folder and just go for placeholder 2, just go to footage and drag and drop the footage right over here, something like that. Adjust the scale, close it for now, and now go through pre-comp and select the placeholder and select the placeholder to hold Alt on the keyboard and press on the right click and drag the placeholder to replace it with placeholder 1. So yeah, it's a really easy technique to change some things like that, and you can change the name just to something like Japan, and you can change the name for whatever you want. I just want to show you how it works. Now go for title 2, close it, go through pre-comp and hold right click and press Alt on the keyboard and replace it with title 2, Control Shift H to see the text 2. So now close this one and close also this one. Now select the pre-comp and block 2 and let's just replace the pre-comp right over here and also the pre-comp here. So by selecting both of them you can just replace them. So now for the strip 1, go to folder 1 and let's just bring here strip 2. Why is it like this? And let's just change this to strip. Yeah, something like this. And go for lines and go to strip 2. Just see its rotation is 12 degree and go for lines rotation to minus 12 degree. I'm sorry, the only thing we did wrong is also go to block 2 and select the lines and press R on the keyboard and let's change this to like 12. Yeah, that's okay. Close line 1 and select that lines and hold right click and press Alt on the keyboard and replace the lines with a line 1. Now you can see how it is changing. Now for the fourth one, again you can use different strips. You can just change the direction to 108, go for scale and make it 100. So now by just changing the transitions you can create completely different things. So replace it here and replace the block 2 over here. So go to around 6 frames and move that there right over here. So by following the same technique and the same process you can create as many composition as you want. So let's just preview what we have created. So now you may say that the composition width and height is something different. It is 3000 for width and 1688 for height. So it's not HD. So how do we make it HD? You can export it as HD. Let's rename this HD, like 9020 and 1080 and hit OK. Now just bring your main composition here and press S on the keyboard. Now you can see it worked. So let's just preview. So here is something. So it's strip 2. Oh, I think yes, we have done a mistake here. So for strip 2 and lines we have to use the same. So for strip 2 the rotation is something like 108. So for lines we have to also use the rotation 108. I think plus 108, and the scale is something like here's scale 110, and let's change the scale to something like 110. Sorry, link them both, make them 110. So now I am sure it has worked. So I wish you have learned something new in this tutorial, and make sure to subscribe to the channel and leave a comment as well. See you in the next tutorial, guys.